Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Popcorn Stand. This is part 2 of my movie review of Stephen King's It, the 1990 miniseries. I hope you enjoyed part 1 that I put out a couple days ago. If you haven't seen that, please go back and watch that one, because if you haven't seen this movie, which most of you have, you may be a little bit confused, if you're not confused enough already by my crazy ranting. I am a hot mess. I hope you enjoyed part 1, and I also hope you enjoy part 2. So without further ado, here is part 2 of my review. Next part happens, part 2, and all the adults are starting to come back into town, and they all meet up, and this is where my brain starts getting a little fuzzy of things happening, because this part with the adults is a lot more boring in my opinion than with the kids. Bill's the first one to show up, and he goes and meets Mike at the library, and I think Mike is supposed to be the head librarian, but to my knowledge they never say that he owns the library, but he just leaves to go hang out with Bill. And I'm like, is he allowed to just leave his job in the middle of his shift without telling anybody, or is he the boss and he can do whatever he wants? I don't get it. They go, and Mike takes him back to his house, and they're reminiscing whatever, and he pulls out this bike that used to be Bill's that he called Silver. He was always like, hi-ho, Silver, away. And they get the bike working, but I'm sitting here thinking there's no way a 30-year-old bike is going to hold 2 full-grown men and not break apart. I don't care. There's no way it was sitting in a pawn shop with somebody actually taking that good of care of it. There's no way. They're on the bike both together. They're having this peppy, music-y montage like they did before in the movie, and they're reminiscing, and then it cuts to them dropping these bicycle cards that they were going to put on the spokes, and there's 2 aces, and they have a clown on them that looks just like Pennywise, and they're like, oh my god, that's scary. It's to Ben showing up, and Ben is in a taxi, and he's like, oh, wait here, or stop here and wait for me. Goes down in the Barrens to kind of relive his own old memories. And he's by the Barrens, and this kid comes down. He hears this kid's yelling, and this kid is running down, getting chased by bullies. And he's a little fat kid, just like how Ben was, and he sees himself. Well, the bullies get him, and they push him down, and the kid's sitting there, laying on the ground like, oh god, oh no, I'm so, Anyway, he hurt his knee, and Ben comes over, and he's like, are you okay? Here, let me help you. He rolls up his pants. He's like, let's clean that up. Pulls out a handkerchief, proceeds to dip it in the dirty creek water, and then clean up the wound. And I'm like, yes, dip your handkerchief in that dirty, nasty water and clean his wound with it. I'm sure there will be no infection whatsoever. So he cleans this kid's wound. The kid goes away, and he has another flashback. He thinks he hears his dad. He wanders over to the place that he saw him before early in the movie, and I don't think he sees anything at that point. Or no, he sees the skeleton sitting there waving to him and talking to him. All of a sudden, this little homeless guy pops up and scares the shit out of him. And this poor little guy, he pushes him because he's freaked out and runs away. He's like, what's your problem, mister? I wasn't gonna hurt you. I don't even know you. And I'm like, that poor homeless guy. Then it cuts to Eddie coming back, and he's going into the pharmacy to get his asthma medicine, and he has another flashback of going in when he was younger and getting asthma medicine. And the pharmacist pulling him aside and telling him, this isn't real. It's just water with camphor oil to make it taste gross and make it taste like medicine. It's all in your head. Your mom's made you think that you're sick. She's determined to say that you're sick. It's just a placebo. And Eddie's in denial, says, I do have asthma, I do, and he runs away. And adult Eddie knows that it's still a placebo, but he still continues to use it because whatever reason. Because it makes him feel better. But he sees the man, and again, and the old man grabs his arm, and he starts talking like Pennywise, and it's like, get out of here when you can, while you still can. And then he hurries up and leaves because he's freaked out. We cut to Bev, and Bev goes to her old house, and she sees that it says Marsh on the door. So she rings the doorbell. An old lady answers, and she's like, oh, I thought it said Marsh. No, it says Kirsch. The lady's like, I'm Mrs. Kirsch, I'm sorry, but your father died like 5 years ago. And she's like, come inside for a cup of tea. And the old lady's really nice. And, the lady starts drinking the tea and is slurping it and stuff. And then you see she's got these nasty teeth. And Beverly's like, that's creepy. And starts stirring her tea, looks, and it's blood. And she drops it. And she stands up, and the old lady's like, well, don't worry, I'll get it. And she's down there cleaning it up and has her back to her. And she's like, it did say Marsh on the door. Then you're not real, basically, whatever. And turns around, and it's now her dad, dead, no eyeballs, in drag as this old lady, just all rotten and stuff. And it's like, I worry about you, Bevy. I worry a lot. And runs after her, and she's like, you're not real, and leaves. Turns around, and Pennywise is standing there waving to her and laughing, and he goes inside, slams the door, and all of a sudden she almost gets hit by a truck. This truck comes by, and she's like, whoa, and looks back at the house again, and it's completely dilapidated, all boarded up. And I know Pennywise can make you hallucinate and make you see things, but I don't understand how he made her think that she walked into the house and then walked back out. Like, was she just standing on the porch the whole time in a catatonic state and people walking by going, what is her problem? Or did she actually somehow make it into the house? Like, they don't really tell you what happened, and I know that's obviously they don't need to. It's a show don't tell moment, but at the same time, I'm like, did she actually go in? Like, was she teleported inside, or was she just standing outside? Was it all in her head? I have no idea. So they all meet up at this Chinese restaurant later, and they're all talking, laughing, having a good time. Bev shows up, sees them, all the boys standing there, and faints. And as she wakes up, she goes, oh my god, you guys, hugs everybody. She makes out with like 2 or 3 of the guys, and I'm like, what a hoe. And then they all have once more another montage of them laughing and talking and like the same song playing, and it's all happy peppy. And then they all start arguing about what's going to happen. They're like, okay, whatever, like, we'll figure it out later. Let's all eat our fortune cookies. Well, as they open up the fortune cookies, Bev squirts blood. Richie, I think, his has an eyeball in it. There's a cockroach in Eddie's. Some weird spider leg in another. A dead, or I guess dead, well, like, it's like a baby bird fetus, and it's sitting there kicking and making noise. And it's supposed to just be gross out. They're all freaking out. And the hostess comes in. And I swear they just picked this lady up off the street, said, here, this is your line. Just say it the best you can. She comes in and she's like looking not at any of the people, but like off to the side going, what's happening? What's wrong? I am a terrible actress. And it's just like, I don't know how many takes they did, but either they just went with the first take or they could not get a good one, and they were just like, fuck it, it's fine. They're all like, okay, fuck it, let's go. So they leave. They go back to the library. And, they're trying to get a hold of Mike, or Mike's trying to get a hold of Stan. And he's calling different people trying to get a hold of him. Richie is drunk, being an asshole and making jokes. And one of the things he says, he goes, you tell Stan if he's, not already here, he's a dead man. He's like, we all managed to show up. And then Mike's like, oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for everything. Hangs up the phone. He's like, Stan's dead. He committed suicide. I'm like, good job, Richie. You're a fucking asshole. Like, it's like, Stan's a dead man. Oh shit, he's actually dead. They start talking about Stan, and then you see Stan's flashback, and because they mentioned something about Stan said, I looked right into its deadlights, which he meant like Pennywise. And he's like, it's like I wanted to be there. And there's a flashback to the lights they saw in the sewer. But then they flash back again to saying Stan saw Pennywise once in a different form. But he goes to this house. He went into the house, and it was abandoned for some reason. Like, he said he knew he shouldn't go in, but he was drawn in there. He goes in, and all of a sudden this fog starts rolling in, and comes down the stairs is like this rotten looking Pennywise outfit, pans up to his face, and it's a fucking mummy. And I'm like, that is not scary. Like, it's creepy, but it's not like terrifying. And the only thing Stan could think of to do was hold out his bird book and recite all the names of the birds that he could remember. And I'm just like, why? Why? And I get he couldn't just run away because, like, the door was stuck. It was locked from, like, the inside. He couldn't get out. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm giving, like, trying to, like, put too much responsibility on these kids. But maybe he could have picked up some sort of furniture and beat it. I don't know. I honestly, though, I say that, and then I probably would just be cowering in a little pudding ball of fear on the ground, praying it doesn't eat me. But yeah, he recites the bird books, or the birds' names out of this book, and the mummy starts backing up like it's hurting him, and then the door unlocks, he manages to get out. And I'm just like, why? Why again? Why would listing the birds hurt Pennywise? The flashback ends, and they open up the fridge because they're all like, we need a drink. And in the fridge is Stan's decapitated head. And it starts talking to him, making fun of all of them, and saying, oh, I'm in the deadlights. You'll all float too. Ha 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 ha. And, goes into all that. And all, like, but before, when they first open up the fridge, before they see his head, all these balloons come flying out. And again, I'm like, balloons! They're so scary. But they slam the door shut, and then all this shit starts happening. The wind's blowing, the glass is breaking, there's a bunch of shit flying around, and it starts raining, and they all hold hands, and they're like, oh, we'll be fine. And then it stops. And I'm at first thought, oh, it's all in their head. And then you see, and there's still glass and shit everywhere. And they hurry up, grab all their stuff, and they leave the library to go back to the hotel because they're like, we gotta get out of here. Fuck this, I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm just thinking, who's cleaning up that library? Like, is another employee gonna come in the morning and just be like, the fuck happened here? They go back to the hotel or whatever, and as they're leaving the library to go back to the hotel, it cuts to the insane asylum where Henry is. Because, he went crazy, his hair turned white. They explained earlier that when he came out of the sewer, he told the police that he killed all the missing children. In this insane asylum, you can clearly see that there are doors for the patients' rooms, but there are like 5 or 6 beds in the hallway with patients sleeping on them. I'm like, they cannot be that overcrowded that they have to have patients sleeping in the hallway. Henry's friend, Belch, shows up underneath the bed, and he's like a dead corpse, whatever, he's rotting away. And it's Pennywise just having him see what he wants to see. And he's like, you gotta kill the kids, go back and kill them all. I can't kill them unless they believe in me. And so Henry says to Belch, he's like, well, Koontz is the one on duty, and he's the orderly. And he's like, Koontz is the worst, I hate him. And it cracks me up because Koontz has got to be named after Dean Koontz. And Dean Koontz, I believe, is another like horror fiction writer. And it just cracks me up that Stephen King threw that in there. Belch grabs his hand, and he after he gives Henry his switchblade back, and they walk up, and Koontz comes out and is like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, basically. And all of a sudden Koontz stops, and you see Pennywise step out from behind Henry. But as it pans up, all of a sudden there's a Rottweiler head in it with a clown body. And it is the funniest shit I have ever seen. And it's snarling and snapping at him, and the orderly is like, oh no! Oh god! And screaming. And I'm like, it's a 6-foot man with a dog head. Like, come on. You can... It's not that scary. Do something about it. And so then it like goes in slow-mo, and a close-up of this guy's face, and then fades away. And then they're all back at the hotel telling stories, and then they start reminiscing about their time as kids and with Pennywise, and it puts Eddie into a panic attack, and he can't breathe, so he sucks on his inhaler, and he's like, I know it's just camphor water, but I need it. And Bev says, if it works, it's good medicine. As long as you believe it works, it works. I'm like, that's terrible advice. That's not how medicine works. Like, that's like the definition of a placebo. is basically like, it only works because you think it works, and that's not good medicine. That's just a fraud. It's just snake oil. I'm like, you are not a professional medical official, Beverly. Stop telling him stupid shit. Cuts to some more flashbacks. One of them is Bev talking about how everything's wrong in Derry because she was outside surrounded by Henry and his gang being bullied, and this old man saw it and then just walked away. And it's kind of dumb because it's definitely not like, oh, because this one asshole decided to be an asshole and ignore you, everyone in Derry all the adults in Derry are bad. I know it does detail it more in the book and in the next movie that there is some sort of hold on the adults of Derry, and they do tend to ignore these things because that's just some weird magical thing. But the way they explain it in this movie, it just doesn't make any sense. But it does piss me off because this old white guy decides he's just gonna ignore these 5 or 6 dudes holding this girl and rubbing her cheek and getting really close to her face and smelling her hair and playing with her hair. And I'm like, that is sexual assault and harassment, and you're just gonna walk away and pretend like nothing happened? You're a fucking dick, man. But whatever. Just douche. Bill's wife, Audra, and earlier she had gotten a plane to go to Maine and come after Bill because she was worried about Bill. Well, she's in her car driving, comes up to like a gas station or something, and she said, how much farther to Derry? The guy's like, oh, you're just like a couple miles out. And then he's like, yeah, just past the Barrens where they used to play when they were kids. And she's like, that's fucking weird. Okay, gotta go. And he's like, don't you want your balloon? And then he turns into Pennywise and dazzles her with his dead lights eyeballs and puts her into some sort of like trance and kidnaps her. And I'm like, why did he kidnap her? Is he gonna eat her later? Why didn't he just eat her? Is he trying to get to Bill? There's no rhyme or reason for it explained in this movie. But after that, it goes back to the hotel, and like this whole hotel sequence where they're reminiscing and all this other stuff is so fucking boring. I get it. It's supposed to be some sort of conflict, but I'm like, do something. It's so boring. But finally, like, Henry shows up and he stabs Mike, and then they find him, and they're trying to get him off him, and Henry winds up getting stabbed and he dies. The next morning or whatever, they just put a sheet over him, and Ben, I think, says, like, you're not seriously considering we just leave this dead body here and pretend like nothing happened. And I'm like thinking the same thing. I'm sitting here going, wait, you're just gonna leave a dead body and pray that nobody comes and asks you questions, you don't get arrested, like any of that happening. So they just leave the dead body. They've taken Mike to the hospital before that and everything, and they're like, we're gonna go down the sewer. We're down 2 people. Stan's dead. Mike's in the hospital. It's just the 5 of us. And so they decide to go down in the sewer, and Bev's like, I brought this. It's my slingshot. And Mike had gone down and got the 2 silver earrings that they had shot at Pennywise before. He went back down the sewer by himself and found them. Talking about going back in the sewer, and Richie's like, did anybody think to bring maybe, I don't know, a machine gun? And Bev's just like, I have the slingshot, and we have these silver bullets, or whatever they are. And I'm like, no, Richie's right. Like, why did no one bring any other weapons? Like, even a machete or a baseball bat or a knife. They argue a little bit more, and then they decide to go down into the sewer. They go down in the sewer, and they go to the place where they were before as kids, and all of a sudden a really shit CGI overlay of Pennywise, it's all wobbly, comes up, and he's like, oh, you're gonna die like all the others, or something like that. And then this paper boat comes up looking like a little shark. They pick it up and they're like, it's gonna tell us the right way to go. Put it down, and they follow it. And they follow it to this tiny, itsy-bitsy little wooden door. Way, way back in the sewer, and there's skulls and other bones around it. They open it up, they go inside, and they're like, this must be Pennywise's lair. They see Audra up in, like, up high, and she's wrapped in, like, cocoon of web, and there's webbing everywhere, and I'm like, I swear to fucking God if this is a giant spider. And lo and behold, Pennywise comes out, and it is a giant fucking weird spider thing, and it is not scary. Like, it's a cool animatronic, but when they show it, like, zoomed out to show the whole thing, it just looks so stupid. And the close-up of its face, it doesn't look scary. It actually looks kind of cute. But they're trying to fight this thing. It shows them its deadlights, and it hypnotizes like 3 of them. Eddie comes up, Bev tries to hit it with the slingshot, misses, and then goes to hit it again, and it ricochets off. So she's got to go and find it, leaves Eddie alone while the other 3 are hypnotized, and he goes up and sprays it again with his inhaler and says, "This is battery acid, you slime, and now you disappear." And it goes, "Wah!" grabs him and starts crushing him. And so he's dying by being crushed. Beverly comes back after finding the silver piece, says, "Oh, please God, don't let me miss again." Shoots it right into like its deadlight things. It sparks like there's an electrical wire that's got a short in it. And it drops Eddie, and it starts running off. Eddie is dying, and they're all there, and it's really sad, whatever, and then he dies. And their reactions for their dead friend are just kind of like, "Oh, that's sad." Like, their reaction should be, and I get, they get up and they're all angry, and they're like, "We're gonna fucking kill this thing." But at the same time, I feel like their reactions to their friend literally dying in their arms should be a lot more intense and meaningful. They go and they chase after the spider Pennywise, and it's like lumbering because it's dying, and they go and just push it over and start kicking and ripping into it, and yank out its heart, and they crush it and rip it apart, and they kill it. And that's the end of Pennywise. It's the lamest monster thing. It's the lamest climax. Like, the way they defeat it is stupid. The way they defeat it in the new movie is even more stupid, but it's dumb. They come out after they pick up Eddie and Audra. Audra is completely catatonic. Basically, she can only move, but she just stares straight ahead. She doesn't talk. She basically is just trapped in her own mind. And they carry out Eddie's body. And all I'm thinking is, how are they going to explain Eddie being dead and Henry being dead? They never explain what happened, how they explain that away. And it just cuts to Mike in the hospital writing stuff down in a voiceover and talking about, how all their lives went about, and like, Richie went and starred in this movie with someone who looked a lot like Stan, and Bev and Mike got together and got pregnant, and then Bill and his wife were going back to England or wherever they were going, and she was still catatonic. At the end, he gets on the bike with Audra. He sees his bike and is like, "Let's try one more thing." Gets on the bike with her, and he's like, "This thing was fast enough to beat the devil," or something like that. "I hope it does it again. Here we go." Starts pedaling with her on it, and she's sitting side saddle, and he's holding on to her, and she's just like catatonic, arm over him, just like this. And they're going down. They go faster and faster because they're going down this big hill, weaving in and out of traffic, almost getting hit, and all of a sudden you see her start to move, and she's like, "Bill, where are we?" And it wakes her up. And he's like, "Oh, Audra," and they make out in the middle of this intersection with all these cars honking at them. But then that's the end of the movie. Like, it shows them making out, and then it cuts to black, and you hear Pennywise laugh, and then that's it. Roll credits. Again, I love this movie. I will always love this movie, but man, for being 3 hours long and a 3 hour long scary movie, it does a whole lot of nothing. It's a fun little romp. Yeah, all in all, I do like this movie, and it's a sign of its time, and it's really hard because it's one of Stephen King's, one of my favorite novels by him, and I haven't read the book in so long. I mean, I remember certain bits and pieces being really fucked up and really scary, but it's stuff that they definitely could not put in a normal movie, let alone a made-for-TV movie. So I get that they had a lot of hindrances for the time that it came out, for the budget that they had, for all the constraints they had for it being on TV. And I completely understand that it had its issues because of those things. But it also had its issues because there was some terrible acting, and like terrible ending, terrible monster. But as much as I pick on it, as much as I say this is terrible, that's terrible, this, again, I really, really do love this movie. Tim Curry is just a light. I wish he would have gotten a lot more screen time than what they give him, but that's the way it is. I know that I left out bits and pieces and I kind of rambled on and on. I plan to do more of these in the future and try to maybe kind of hone down the process, maybe actually get some stills or some clips or something if I can, so you guys can follow along a little better. And it's not just some crazy lady ranting to the camera and to the audience. I hope you guys really liked this. I love movies and I love reviewing them, and really kind of, I like just giving my overall opinion. This one was just a little fun one. Other ones that I want to do, I will try to get a little more technical and talk a little bit more about maybe the movie process and in a more intelligent way rather than just ranting like a lunatic. I do want to do a lot more of these in the future, along with the snack videos and maybe some other fun things here and there. If you guys have any suggestions for movies that you want me to review, please type them in the comments below. Give me a list. I'm already trying to work on some more. With Halloween coming up, I will be doing scary or Halloween themed movies all month long in October, which is my all-time favorite genre, so I can't wait to do that, and I hope you guys like it as well. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the little bell to get a notification, because if you don't ring that bell, you won't get notifications when my videos come out. Please, 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 this video, or any of the other two that are on there right now, share them with your friends. It's a great way for them to see some really fun stuff, for me to reach more of an audience with the things that I love to do. And again, I hope you guys liked it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.